Beste mensen, check. Hey, een hele goede avond. Waar ik normaal altijd eindeloos blijf vasthangen in mijn eigen monoloog, oftewel met het becommentariëren van alle beelden die ik daar verzamel, waarmee ik dus eigenlijk helemaal niet eens door die beelden heen kom, dacht ik, ga ik jullie vandaag maar eens verblijden met wederom een verzameling van de beelden die ik dan normaal zou bespreken in de What the Fuck Show. Maar nu dan alvast even gepresenteerd zonder mijn gelul er doorheen. En ook dus nog even de beelden van nog de laatste What the Fuck Show waar ik niet eens naartoe ben gekomen. Maar die wel bijzonder interessant zijn om even mee te nemen in jouw beschouwing. En sowieso een heel bijzonder inzicht geven. Of weet ik veel, aanwijzingen geven op wederom een andere waarheid als hetgeen wat ons verteld wordt. Oftewel, dus een hele bijzondere verzameling mensen met rare TikTok filmpjes. En al die andere samenzweringen die we dus tegenkomen op internet. En die natuurlijk door de overheid en al die andere instanties maar noem je dat? Waar met naarstig ogen naar gekeken wordt. En die men maar al te graag natuurlijk het liefst wil verbannen. Vandaar is dat we ook zien dat uiteraard sites zoals TikTok of apps zoals TikTok worden verbannen. Maak je echter daar niet druk over. Want zoals altijd met internet zal er wel weer een nieuwe app verschijnen. Waarmee dit platform of dit podium gecreëerd wordt. En zoals ik ook al in de show zei, is het niet mogelijk om dus deze samenzweringen en deze onthullingen te stoppen. Zet je schrap mensen voor een bijzondere collectie met dus TikTok filmpjes en dergelijke die jou zouden moeten wakker schudden. Komt ie aan, beste mensen.
Opgepakt als thema. En het is ook een thema bij de anti-overheidsextremisten. Oh ja. Dat is natuurlijk een groep die de laatste jaren steeds meer in omvang en invloed groeit. Mensen die zich afwentelen van de Nederlandse samenleving. En die ook allerlei ideeën hebben over dat er een soort sinister complot schuilgaat achter de Nederlandse overheid. Een soort kwaadwillende elite van al dan niet Joodse samenzweerders in hun idee.
Het zijn een soort autonomen die alles...
Dat is een groep binnen dat anti-overheidsactivisme. Aha. En zij zien eigenlijk, en zij schilderen ook de Gaza-oorlog weer af als een conflict dat eigenlijk in scène is gezet. Ja. Net als de coronacrisis, de stikstofcrisis, de klimaathoax, de Oekraïne-oorlog. Zij zien het allemaal als door de overheid eigenlijk gecreëerde problemen die eigenlijk een soort dekmantel zijn om de burger verder te kunnen onderdrukken.
Wat ik net zei over dat stuk maken van...
Must have made a dent with our theory that the ISS is orbiting using electrostatic propulsion because guess who has an electrostatic levitation laboratory now? NASA, dude. Where they're making big balls of steel levitate with electrostatics. And they're talking about their new electric propulsion. And it's no secret now. All of a sudden, NASA's all out in the open with it. I mean, anyone could be honest enough to say that this does not look 250 miles away. And if we look at magnetic field lines from the top through the magnetic field lines on the ferrocell, then we see that we create the exact same pattern that we would see whenever we take a look at the ISS orbital motion over the flat Earth model. We made gigantic headway with this patent showing that triangular spacecraft that uses electrostatics to defy gravity. And that's why it's such a big problem for the theory of relativity. Electrogravitics follow the magnetic field lines, which look exactly like this, and they don't follow the silly curvature of space-time. Come on. So do you think NASA being open and honest now about electric propulsion is their way of being like, oh yeah, we've been doing it all along? Or have we put the pressure on them and now they're like, okay, time to do some damage control?
This was Rome in 1653, looking very buried and abandoned. Perhaps this was right after a mud flood event. Just look at the streets and the mud flow on them, and the many buried structures. And then we'll fast forward a few hundred years later, into the late 1800s, early 1900s, when, like all places around this realm, they decided to start unburying. unburying from the last reset. Just look at all those hidden archways being revealed from those truckloads of dirt being removed. And always with the massive brick archways buried several meters underground. This is not the Rome you see in any history books, because some of the excuses they give for this level of dirt is almost as laughable as all the undergrounds in America, such as a civilization that was capable of building such grand works couldn't build garbage dumps, and they just threw their rubbish in the streets until apparently it buried them. And they call conspiracy theorists rubbish pushers. Just another reminder that history is nothing more than a set of lies agreed upon. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
This may be the actual location of the Tower of Babel of Babylon.
The original name of Egypt, that area, was not Cairo. It was Babylon. I found a map on the wall in Galileo Museum, and it's called the Fra Mauro map, and it shows the world in 1457. When you look at the area around Egypt, it doesn't mention the name Nile River on the Nile River. The name it gives to the Nile River is Gihon, because in the Bible, the place of the Garden of Eden is where the four rivers meet. The four rivers were purportedly the Tigris, Euphrates, the Pishon, and the Gihon rivers. The scholar Josephus said that the Gihon River was the Nile. Nimrod is famous in the Bible for building the Tower of Babel. Now, the Tower of Babel was supposed to have been built on the shores of the river Gihon. Now, we today believe that Babylon was located in what we would consider, Mesopotamia. Archaeologists never found the city, and there's great debate on where Babylon actually was. Well, the funny part is that when you look at Leonardo da Vinci's letter to the Devatdar of the Sultan of Cairo, it actually says to the Devatdar of the Sultan of Babylon, Cairo, because this whole area is Old Cairo, and the name of Old Cairo was Babylon. I had very recent discoveries related to this, and I believe that the Tower of Babel plateau was actually in Egypt, and it's actually a place called Abu Rawash. It stands 300 feet higher elevation than the Giza Plateau. The builder of it, Nimrod, interestingly, God wasn't happy, apparently, as the story goes, and destroyed the building. This is exactly northwest of the Great Pyramid Complex, and there were two pyramids there. The first pyramid is the larger of the two, and it has a 60-degree slope angle. Now, these pyramids were destroyed. Nobody knows how they were destroyed. There's about 20 concourses still there, and there's a gigantic deep cavern or pit. It looks as though the pyramid exploded from the inside out.
The body of a Neanderthal baby girl was discovered, a Neanderthal infant. She was so well preserved. Never have they seen this kind of preservation before. The DNA was so intact that scientists were able to extract that DNA, build the genome, and compare Neanderthal, her body, her genome, her DNA to ours today. What I was taught when I was in school, what you were taught, is that Neanderthal is our ancestor, that we descended from Neanderthals. Quote, the results suggest that modern human was not, in fact, descended from Neanderthal, end of quote. Neanderthal is not we didn't descend from them. It's not our ancestors. As a matter of fact, what they're showing is not only did we not come from them, but we shared the earth with them. We walked the earth with Neanderthal. We, as modern humans, we walked the earth with them. They said we probably had Neanderthal boyfriends and girlfriends. You laugh when you hear that, but I have to tell you, I shared that at a live audience.
So I'm convinced that we did live at the same time as Neanderthals. I do believe that. I don't think that we are evolved from them.
Persistent visual snow, floaters, morphing objects, I see them right now. I see them all the time.
The snow's in the room.
The snow is definitely in the room. It's all over you. And basically, it wasn't that I took too many shrooms. I think that I took about an eighth of senescence mushrooms, which are the ones that come from the earth instead of cow shit. And I took an eighth of those at my friend Toby's house, and which is a normal amount, but I was in 8th grade. So I woke up the next morning with these extreme, visual distortions. And I thought that it would go away. I tried to make it go away, but there's really no cure for HPPD. It's a lifelong condition, so it's just a matter of dealing with it and realizing that it is only visual. So when people ask me, hey, I have HPPD, how do I cope with it? I say, remember that every other sense that you have, what you can hear, what you can taste, your feet on the ground, you're still on Earth, you're still here.
Well, you said it's only visual. And yes, gratitude for being alive at all.
Yeah.
It's great. But you said that this led you into some dark psychological places like depersonalization disorder.
Yeah. Depersonalization is the feeling that you are not real, but that reality still exists. Derealization is the idea that reality itself is an illusion created by your mind, and that you're the only person alive, and that everything that your brain is projecting to your visual cortex is a lie, and that you're the only living human being.
Both are pretty intense.
HPPD creates both of those things. And so when I've talked to people who have the condition, it's really either or, but more than 70% of people with HPPD fall into either category. They're both coping mechanisms for I don't know what really happens. I talked to a researcher once named Dr. Abraham. He lives in upstate New York. He's the leading scientist when it comes to HPPD research. He's the only one who actually seems to care about finding a cure. And the only known treatment right now is alcohol and benzodiazepines.
That's not good.
Right.
Trip or something that's temporary. This guy's got permanent psychological damage. That's the way I look at it. I mean, he's not normal. Yeah, that's enough to keep me away from it. I won't be experimenting with any mushrooms.
Who is the creator of the simulation?
Some people say it's aliens. There was a professor at Oxford who wrote a paper about this back in 2003 named Nick Bostrom, and he thinks it's future versions of ourselves. So he thinks we're in what we'd call an ancestor simulation. Like if we created a game of ancient Rome, they would be like our ancestors in a way. There are others who say it's God or pure consciousness outside of the matrix. So all the religions, not just any specific religion, but pretty much all of them have been telling us that the physical world is not the real world, that there's another world out there beyond this. And so that's yet another theory of what's outside.
Do you believe this is probable, possible?
I believe it's probable, like more than a 50% chance that we are inside some type of...
Those are pretty high odds.
Well, yeah, and as I studied the different religions, I realized that they were telling us the same thing that modern computer science and that modern physics is starting to tell us about the nature of reality.
This goes back to a video.
Metaphysical, religion, any of that. I've studied healing, and I've also communicated with a lot of the top people. And if you want to know, I will actually break down right now the best knowledge right now what's happening on the planet. What's happening? The elite are all about transcendence and living forever and the secrets of the universe, and they want to know all this. Some are good, some are bad, some are a mix. But the good ones don't ever want to organize. The bad ones didn't want to organize because they lust after power. Powerful consciousnesses don't want to dominate other people. They want to empower them, so they don't tend to get together until things are really late in the game. Then they come together. Evil's always defeated because good is so much stronger. And we're on this planet, and Einstein's physics showed it, Max Planck's physics showed it, there's at least 12 dimensions. And now that's all the top scientists and billionaires are coming out saying it's a false hologram. It is artificial. The computers are scanning it and finding tension points where it's artificially projected and gravity's bleeding in to this universe. That's what they call dark matter. So we're like a thought or a dream that's a wisp in some computer program, some God's mind, whatever. They're proving it all. It's all coming out. Now, there's like this sub-transmission zone below the third dimension that's just turned over to the most horrible things, is what it resonates to. And it's trying to get up into the third dimension that's just a basic level consciousness to launch into the next levels. And our species is already way up at the fifth, sixth dimension, consciously, our best people. But there's this big war trying to basically destroy humanity because humanity has free will, and there's a decision to which level we want to go to. We have free will, so evil's allowed to come and contend, and not just good. And the elites themselves believe they're racing using human technology to try to take our best minds and build some type of breakaway civilization where they're going to merge with machines, transcend, and break away from the failed species that is man, which is kind of like a false transmission because they're thinking what they are is...
Look, we're watching this. I played this like almost a year ago, this clip maybe. But do you see how Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, you see how Tucker Carlson looked at him? Because he knows something. That's why I want y'all to see this again. Crazy.
And bad, projecting it onto
I've
themselves.
never seen them react to this, but you can see it in them. See how he looked at him?
Instead of believing, no, it's a human test about building us up. And so Google was set up 18, 19 years ago. I knew about this before it was declassified. I'm just saying I have good sources. That they wanted to build a giant artificial system. And Google believes that the first artificial intelligence will be a supercomputer based on the neuron activities of the hive mind of humanity, with billions of people wired into it with the Internet of Things. And so all of our thoughts go into it, and we're actually building a computer that has real neurons in real time that's also psychically connected to us, that are organic creatures, so that they will have current prediction powers, future prediction powers, a true crystal ball. But the big secret is, once you have a crystal ball and know the future, you can add stimuli beforehand and make decisions that control the future. And so then it's the end of consciousness and free will for individuals, as we know, and a true 2.0 in a very bad way, hive mind consciousness with an AI jacked into everyone, knowing our hopes and dreams, delivering it to us not in some PKD wirehead system where we plug in and give up on consciousness because of unlimited pleasure, but because we were already wired in and absorbed before we knew it, by giving over our consciousness to this system by our daily decisions, that it was able to manipulate and control into a larger system. There's now a human counterstrike taking place to shut this off before it gets fully into place, and to block these systems, and to try to have an actual debate about where humanity goes, and cut off the pedophiles and psychic vampires that are in control of this AI system before humanity's destroyed. The AI? How'd the pedophile...
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah,
it's incredible. I didn't understand about that was 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Yeah, okay. So,
no, 7 years ago, no one was thinking AI was going to take over civilization.
So you can see why the FBI decided to destroy him, which it did. The people it's just like what has happened to Alex Jones is proof that at least some of what he's saying is true. Because why? Who is Alex Jones a threat to U.S. government just released?
Een soort sinister complot schuilgaat achter de Nederlandse overheid. Een soort kwaadwillende elite van al dan niet Joodse samenzweerders in hun...
Zionistisch eigenlijk, hè?
Idee.
Het zijn een soort autonomen die alles...
Dat is een groep, binnen...
Dat bedoelt die niet helemaal. Nee, het is toch echt een specifiek groepje, hoor.
Dat anti-overheidsactivisme. En zij zien eigenlijk, en zij schilderen ook de Gaza-oorlog weer af als een conflict dat eigenlijk in scène is gezet.
Ja,
inderdaad.
Net als de coronacrisis, de stikstofcrisis, de klimaathoax.
Het is allemaal een scam.
De Oekraïne-oorlog. Zij zien het allemaal als door de overheid eigenlijk gecreëerde problemen die eigenlijk een soort dekmantel zijn om de burger verder te kunnen onderdrukken.
Inderdaad. Nou, goed opgelet, Sylvian.
Wat ik net zei over dat stuk maken van...
Must have made a dent.
Want je ziet er dus als het ware vanaf de bovenkant, vanaf de aarde. Ten eerste ziet het eruit als een iris, een oog. Alsof we inderdaad een microscopisch minuscuul onderdeel zijn van inderdaad het oog van God. Maar daarnaast is het ook weer een holografisch beeld. Oftewel een beeld wat weer bestaat uit kleine beeldjes wat hetzelfde eigenlijk is. Oftewel eindeloos veel irissen op elkaar in die zin. Maar eventjes om het fysiek in aards te houden. Dat middelpunt, het zwarte gat, dat is ook precies dat wat we dus gereflecteerd zien als we dus de zon zien draaien tijdens een zonsverduistering. Want dus naast dat de zon een reflectie is van dus dat zwarte gat wat dus zeg maar in het midden zit van onze planeet, waar we dus omheen wonen met alle continenten, is natuurlijk ook dan de zonsverduistering eigenlijk een soort verversing of letterlijk een wenteling van de zon in zijn reflectie. Goed, dit kun je dan trouwens ook weer, dit zijn magnetische veldlijnen, zo ziet dit hele gebied eruit. En dit is letterlijk dan na te bootsen in een laboratorium.
You can buy one.
I just came back from Egypt a few months ago, and I went to 10 pyramids. On every pyramid, we found mushroom hieroglyphics, every one of them. Now, I sent this through Graham Hancock, some of these hieroglyphs, and Egyptologists said, no, they're shovels. Well, scientists don't look at Egypt in the context of the ecosystem 4,000 years ago. There's no mushrooms growing there. It's a desert. 2 other scientists have published this before me. The hieroglyphs on these temples are of psilocybin mushrooms.
So those look like mushrooms.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Boy, they so look like mushrooms.
He published this in 2016. This is the goddess Hathor, the Dendera temple. If you look this up, it gets less than 1 millimeter of rain a year. That's how dry it is. Those that's a vase there with these mushroom-like figures coming out. And the lower part is the blue lotus, a water lily associated with a mushroom.
Those are so obviously mushrooms.
They're not a shovel.
No,
The shovel would be upside down.
It's so obviously mushrooms.
so
but it's also
obviously-
like the way the cap is formed.
We have a reward of $1,000 for anyone who can find Psilocybe cubensis DNA in the ruins. And because we can amplify the DNA, we can prove that they were either in the vases, in the ponds, or near the pond.
To the prison planet where everything is designed to make you suffer and your energy is being harvested. Alright, so this is my series about the prison planet. If you didn't see the previous videos, it's essentially what I was saying in the opening. Prison planet theory dictates that we are always tricked into reincarnation. We come back to this world because our energy is being harvested. Well, what kind of energy is being harvested? Our negative energy, and that's why everything in this world is designed to make us feel so negative. You can watch the previous videos if this is your first one, but today we're going to talk about Buddhism and what it potentially says about the prison planet theory. So the Buddha taught that reincarnation is an endless cycle of suffering. This cycle is called samsara. The opposite of samsara is nirvana, and that is a state of absolute joy, peace, and just extreme happiness. Well, what is samsara? It is depicted as a wheel. There's a lot going on here, and so we're going to dive into this, piece by piece, or some of the pieces. If we end up going too long, I might have to do a part 2. So at the center of the wheel, you have the 3 poisons, which are depicted as a pig, a rooster, and a snake. The pig represents ignorance. We're ignorant to the fact that we are all connected. It is thinking like an individual, only thinking for yourself. It is biting the tail of the rooster, which is represented by desire, because if you're only thinking about an individual, you're going to desire things, more money, more women, more men, whatever. This desire leads to jealousy, to hate, which is depicted by the snake. You're comparing yourself to others. You should have what they have. They have more than you. These 3 poisons are depicted biting the tails because they show that every single one of these poisons leads to the other, and it creates this endless cycle. By giving into the poisons, you live in this illusion that it is about you, that it is only you, that we are not all connected, and it starts this wheel of samsara. How and where you reincarnate is dictated by your karma. Everybody has heard the word karma, but most people do not actually understand what karma is. You often hear karma's a bitch, what comes around goes around, but that's not actually what karma is. In the Bible, Jesus talks about the chains of the devil that bind us down. And I think that explains karma really well, because what karma is every action that you have with someone, whether you hurt them, whether you do something good, whatever it is, you create a karmic debt. We are all tied to one another with these karmic debts, these chains. Debts need to be repaid. And therefore, we are in this endless cycle of reincarnation because so much debt has accrued. Not all debt is bad. Your karma dictates which realm you will reincarnate into. Like I said, there's 6 realms. You have the gods, the demigods, and the humans. You also have animals, hungry ghosts, and demon creatures or hell-like creatures. So if you're incarnated as a god, you know no suffering. Everything is pleasurable. Everything is amazing. Your suffering comes at the end of your life. They live extremely long lives, by the way, but at the end of your life, you realize that you will incarnate at a lesser realm. That's where the suffering happens. An oversimplification of how you would get to this realm would be if you have a lot of positive karma, but a lot of pride. Next, you have the demigods. These are extremely powerful beings, but they're also controlled by jealousy. There's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of comparison. If you have a lot of good karma, but a lot of desire, this is where you go. A lot of Buddhist legends also say that this is where the tree of life is, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, as spoken about in the Garden of Eden. That would actually be in the realms of the gods. I'm going to skip over humans. We'll talk about that one last, but you have the realms of the animals. Animals suffer from cold, hunger, sickness, cannibalism, and a lack of intelligence. If you accrue negative karma and a lot of ignorance, this is where you would go. There's a lot of ignorance in this world, like willing ignorance. Next, you have the hungry ghosts. They suffer because their hunger, their thirst is never quenched. A lot of Buddhists talk about this is where you could potentially go if you have negative karma and addictions that are unresolved. Hence, hunger's not being quenched. It's an absolute torturous existence. Negative karma and greed is the combination for this. The most torturous existence is the hell creatures. This existence is extremely long suffering, and this is negative karma and hatred. Alright, we're at 4 minutes, which is way too long, so we're going to do a part 2. We're going to talk about humans. We're going to talk about how this is a cycle. You do not win if you become God, because as you saw, it is a will, it is a cycle. You are constantly moving up and down throughout all eternity. So the question is, how do you escape this reincarnation cycle and truly go to an area of infinite bliss, which they call nirvana?
In the Appalachian Mountains is suspicious as shit, but what's actually living in there? If you ask people in my hometown, it's the moon-eyed people. Now, the legend of the moon-eyed people comes from the Cherokee Native Americans. They were short, pale-skinned, had bright blue eyes, and they could not come out during the sunlight because it would hurt their eyes. So that's why the Cherokees called them the moon-eyed people. Now, the moon-eyed people were cave dwellers in that area, and at some point in time, the Cherokee got into a tussle with these moon-eyed people. And during the battle, during the battle, the moon-eyed people built this wall that was 833 feet long. Now, it doesn't look like a wall anymore. It looks like a stone path. But back in the day, it was a big-ass wall. Cherokee claimed that the moon-eyed people built this wall during the battle to keep the Cherokee out. But that didn't stop them. They still drove them out of Georgia into Tennessee and North Carolina into those cave systems. History supports the Cherokee Native American legend as well because nobody knows who built this wall. This wall was built before Christopher Columbus came over here, and the Native Americans say they didn't build it, the moon-eyed people built it. So are the moon-eyed people still living in the cave system now, and that's why we have so many missing people in the Appalachian Mountains? Or is it just a legend?
This is not New York in 2023. This is Greece right now. I have a whole bunch of other ones to show you. This is insane. What would even cause this? Nope, not Mars, still Greece.
But look at, it looks like there's like black. This is nuts. This is really nuts. It's literally orange. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's orange. Everything is orange.
Do you hear what he said? He said there's something black in the sky. He said that obviously it's orange, but there's something black. I'm not sure, because when New York was orange, they said it was because of the Canadian fires. But he's saying he sees something black in the sky.
There's no filter on nothing.
What could be black in the sky causing it to turn orange in Greece? On a completely unrelated note, you can buy this flamethrower dog right here, right now, for $9,500. Cheaper than most vehicles. And again, completely unrelated note, Canada is on fire, like I was showing y'all. And it's not just trains and stuff, it's literally watchtowers too. And with places turning orange, all these fires, all these big earthquakes coming out of nowhere, all these fish dying in the ocean, I feel like something's coming.
Lived in this model, then this would have to be a giant ice wall that is the highest elevation than anywhere else. And it is. If we lived here and the Earth is not a ball at 25,000 miles in circumference, then that would mean that the outer edge of Antarctica is like roughly 60,000 miles around. Captain James Cook sailed around Antarctica. He approached this giant ice barrier and was going to go around Antarctica, and he was constantly looking for a way in and kept going. He realized the wall was too tall, so he just kept sailing for 60,000 miles. He eventually realized, man, it's going to take a high jump to get over that wall. Also, if we lived here, then there would be a 24-hour sun here and not down here. All these places in the north have a 24-hour sun. That's right, all of them. They say the South Pole has a 24-hour sun, but if the North Pole has a 24-hour sun and all the continents around it, then the South Pole and all of the continents around it should have it as well. Like Australia, but it doesn't. Or South America. But it doesn't. I also feel like if we lived here and they were really trying to hide it from us, then no one would be able to go here. I mean, we would figure it out. Oh yeah, it is off limits, the Antarctic Treaty. Do you know of anything else that all countries agree on together? I know one other thing, the Artemis Accords. All countries agree on space exploration as well. And of course, Google's going to tell you Antarctica is not off limits. It's just tightly regulated. They're almost like, look, you can go there, but you can't go there. You could go there, you could explore freely, but don't go there, don't explore freely. Look, we've tried to go by plane, we've tried to go by boat. Military is ready and waiting to take over communications and turn you around. Once you go flat, you never go back, and that's the thing. In order to see the big picture, you gotta connect all of the dots.
In 1961, an unusual event occurred over Nuremberg. Witnesses reported seeing a vast array of objects in the sky, described as spheres, disks, and cylinders engaged in a battle-like formation. Some accounts mention smoke, fire, and strange colors, all being seen at this phenomenon. It lasted for about an hour, leaving many people bewildered and frightened. Despite various theories, the causes of the celestial event remain a mystery, sparking debates and fascination among historians and ufologists alike.
Okay, so this not only happened once in 1561, and this is the story, so I'm going to let you pause this and read this anytime. I'm not about to read it to you, so I don't want to bore anyone, but it's all there, and it's very interesting and very confusing. Like, if people actually saw what they're saying, what could be the explanation? And then I found out it didn't only happen once, but twice. Because look, there's another one, August 1566 in Basel, Switzerland, similar location, very similar to what they saw. What do you think?